Fortune favors the bold. Let's go to CSSBattle.dev and do the daily target, which is kind of interesting. All right. What on earth is that? It's kind of interesting. So what is it? What is it? How do we do it? Let's do a start. We'll start with a background on the body. And let's see if we can do a star. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. I feel a little weird about this one. I don't know why. I think it's two paragraph elements. Two paragraph elements that have kind of some interesting things going on. Border radius on the top, right? I mean, there are values for each one, but the first two values have values. Let's call it 40 pixels. 40 pixels 0 0. Okay. And let's create that with a background. No, let's not do it that way. Let's do a linear gradient that kind of roughly does blue at 90 degrees, blue, and then transparent, and then blue. And then the second one is smaller. Okay. And with different margins. So let's put margins on the body here, or on the first paragraph element. So we'll do number one first. The first one first. 5, 6, 7, rate 2, 10, 12. Okay, and then the height 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I kind of have an instinct like it's gonna be a bar of a height or 160. Okay. What's that border radius? 80? 70? 80, 90? 100? 100. So that's one. And then the second one has different margins. Margins that we're going to bring it up, minus 100. And let's do 120, 0. All right. So what matters for me is that go up high enough. 1, 20, 30, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 200. Okay, and then that height is 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Okay. And then that border radius is some value. So I'm just going to plop it in as its own thing. I think that there's an optimization to be made here. How about 10, 60, 80? Oh. How about 80 and 80? Not quite right, huh? So what if this is a percentage? 30%, 0, 70%, 0. Oh, yeah, interesting. You see kind of what I'm getting at there. It's not really working yet. How about 180, 190? No, 180, 190, 195, 6, 7, 6. Let's make that a little higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, which makes that 64. How about the height of 80? 80, 70, 80, 90, 85, 86. So that's getting a little tricky. It's not really helping me very much. In fact, I would say it's even hurting me quite a bit. How about 40, 50, 60, 40. There we go. So it looks like 50 is what I want. 180, 180, 190. There we go. That's looking roughly right. So, what do we learn? Var. So I need this radius. So let's call it dash r, and it's going to be a calc of 100 pixels divided by var of divided by what are we doing here? Okay, so var. Let's start it with the stupidest value, which is 100 pixels divided by 1, and then just make sure that it works. Is this efficient? Not really. That's okay. R and a var. And then I want the factor, so we'll call it R2. There we go. So that kind of worked. So this height needs to be, what, 90? Okay. Now what? So I think this linear gradient is more appropriate to be on this guy. Background. Actually, let's do it as B. Dash B is this. So it's going to be var of dash B, or let's just do the color. Ha ha ha. Oh, and even better, it's going to be a conic gradient. I know this is one that's probably a little hard to follow, but it's clear in my mind. I know that's not helpful to you, and I'm sorry. Okay, so we got this conic gradient. We got this weird conic gradient, and I'm going to set a 40 pixels, and let's move it over more. 6, 7, 8, 9, 100, and then 30, and then it needs an at 50%. 50% would be the default. So we want it to be like 40% wide, 45, 40, 45, 44, 43, 44, 45. Nah, that's no good. How about 100 pixels? 30, 40, 50, 60, and then a little taller. How about 60, 65, 61, 62, 63. Nah. 100 pixels, 110, 100 pixels, 90 pixels. No, 100 pixels is correct. Okay, now we increase this height to be 10. No, we decrease the height to be 80. Great. And then 40 pixels, 50, and then 0, 90. There we go. This is a hard one to read. I'm sorry. It's got a lot of funky shapes. That is 100% match. What can we learn from this? Not a lot. The way I've done this kind of really complicated shape. So this is the body. there's your odd background. So everything's kind of showing through, right? And then what we've got on the background, so I'll show you what the first P element is, background. I'll just make it yellow, and so you can see what that is. And then I'll make the background on this one be something else. Orange. So those are our two shapes. Those are our two paragraph elements, and they're controlled using variables or using the margins. So dash m is that, and then I can go dash m here, like so. So if I remove those two identifiers, then we've got a background that is either a variable or a conic gradient whose center, so it looks like this, and it's got two parts. One is, so there's a conic gradient, and if I add a no repeat, you can see what the gradient is, which would be here, no repeat. And I'll do what? Red, pink. So there's the conic gradient, and I've moved it using background position. That's these two here, and then I said no repeat, and the center of it is at 160, 100. So here's the center. Boom. All right, let's undo that. Okay, so it's a complicated shape. I don't know that we need necessarily this calc, because this R is really just dash R. I can just say 100 pixels. Okay. And I do need to make sure that there's not an extra parenthesis sitting there. And then I can make that R be, instead of this F variable, I need an R, and do 50 pixels, and that's probably shorter. What other optimizations can we make? We've got, it's 160 and then 80. So there's another use potentially for the factor, because one is half as big as the other. So does that mean that we could use scale for this? Possibly. But also it feels a little different. No, the scale might work, but I'm not excited about it. All right, what else we got? Is there a terser way to do this? If we remove that clump and say 0, '80, 90, is that shorter? Maybe slightly shorter code. Oh, and then I remove the white background, which is an off-white, FFEF F2. So you can kind of see that diff. See how that diff is, there's just a slight, when I put the proper white on it, then you can see it. Other optimizations that we might make. The widths of this, not excited about any of those. All right, let's resubmit for a final answer. 2 paragraph elements. I'm sure that the best players will create an element and a nested element and then find the commonalities and squeeze in that second, the inner part of this in an interesting way. That's not what I did. Let's submit. Final answer. Call it a day. And move on. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's an oddball shape in every way possible, and in the best way possible. It makes it a good puzzle. It's got my brain thinking about all kinds of ways to variabilize and reuse and those kinds of things, which is why I went for a factor, like a calc type solution right from the get-go, which is not something I commonly do. All right, have a good day. go make a web page. Please go make a web page. I've been making web pages myself today. It's pretty cool. All right, get out of here. Be good. Bye.